Hello, everyone, and welcome to the fourth series of Space Talk of SEDS-Nepal. And I'm Nishal, a fellow member of SEDS-Nepal, and the host of today's event, and that is fourth series of Space Talk. So, moving on, I would like to light some insight over SEDS. So, SEDS, that is Students for the Exploration and Development of Space, is a global students' union, and we are the national chapter of SEDS in Nepal, and we work for the development of space in Nepal with motto of taking Nepal to space. And moving on to the next, today we have key speakers of today's talk from SEDS-UAE, Ms. Alison Waterman, Ms. Wantingo, and Mr. Sampanna Bhattarai, and Mr. Aayush Karna. And all of them are currently studying at New York University, Abu Dhabi, and they are the fourth year undergrads. Yeah, and so let's get started. Okay, and starting with the very first question, why did you guys opt to choose space, and what drove you guys to be the part of SEDS?
Okay, maybe I can start. For me, one of the reasons, so I'm Alison, I am the head of SEDS-UAE, and one of the reasons that I chose to study space is because I think the problems you have to solve are very interesting, right? Because when you're designing systems that have to survive in space, you have very interesting sets of problems that you have to solve because your instruments have to work in very extreme conditions. So after you launch something, you can't just like go up and get it down and fix it and troubleshoot it. It has to be working very well. And so for that reason, I think engineering for space is one of the most like interesting problems you can solve. Yeah, anyone else want to jump in?
Yeah.
Why do you want to study space?
Okay, so my reason for studying space is because it's this whole blank space that's not been explored that much as like the Earth or everything beneath it or around it. So my reason, I'm not into space per se, but I'm into equipments that we can get into space and explore space in a way. So like my area of study is mechanical engineering, but there wasn't an dedicated aerospace program, so that's the way I chose to explore space. And yeah, that's what I've been studying right now. I'm a senior as well, like Alison. Yeah. I don't know, I was trying to
Okay, so I'm Wanti. I'm a freshman at NYUAD, and I plan to study physics. So why am I interested is because I think there should be a law that everybody like in the universe, like everything in the universe should follow, and then that's I think that can be accomplished by physics in the future, and that's why I think it's interesting.
For me, space was something that's still unexplored by us. Like there's too many questions that are unanswered in space, and figuring out those things is what made me interested in studying about space.
Okay. And so starting with the questions, can you guys tell me some more about SEDS-UAE?
Yeah, so SEDS-UAE is a group of students. We have a few projects going currently. We have the rocket project, so we're designing a sounding rocket for the competition called Spaceport America Cup. It's taking place this summer. So we're designing a payload that's in CubeSat form to be put inside the rocket. And then we have a lot of other events. We have like guest speakers, workshops. So we invite people from the aerospace industry or from the UAE, for example. Dubai Space Center will invite people to come and give talks and things like that. So that's mainly what we do.
Yeah. And I want Mr. Abhishek Kafle to light some insight over our SEDS-Nepal. And hello? Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
So, okay. So, I'll be asking the next question again. What
Okay.
kind of space-related projects do you there?
Yeah, so one of them I talked about was the rocket project, but another project that Sampanna and I are working on together has to do with drones. Maybe you can, Sampanna, tell them a little bit about that.
Sure. So our project, the original title of it was Deep Learning for Collaborative Control of a Drone Swarm. I was actually working on it before I came for this meeting. And what we're doing in that project is an area of swarm robotics where we try to simultaneously localize and map more than two drones or two or more than two drones to map an environment. And while doing that, we need to figure out a way for those two drones to interact with each other through ad hoc networks to send pose everything of the drone so that they know where each other are relative to one another. And that's our approach of covering a huge geographical space. So for that, the facilities that we have is on the basement of our campus, there's a big drone lab where we can fly drones. Our campus itself is a drone-free zone, so it's very easy to go outside and fly drones and do all kinds of testing if you want. But there are these, so what we're working with is copter drones, and to interact with copter drones, we work on with ROS, Robot Operating System. And basically, yeah, that's pretty much it. That's the whole gist of our capstone
That sounds
project.
great.
Thanks.
Are there any projects that you guys would like to discuss more? Any projects Wanting and Aayush want to discuss?
You want to talk a bit more about the rocket project? Wanting has worked a bit on the rocket project, and her specialization is on the recovery system. So like researching the different types of parachutes and how we can use them.
Yeah, so I'm currently working on the recovery part because the entire rocket was split into three teams: propulsion, payload, and then the recovery. So I was working with another senior on the telemetry, but then I myself was working on the ejection system and the parachute of the rocket system. So we're on the stage of buying the materials for the rocket, and then we can do test launches later on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And we want to hear more about your sounding rocket projects. So how height can fly, and more about.
Yeah, so for the competition, the rocket has to fly to 3 kilometers or 10,000 feet. And we're actually judged on how accurately we can fly to that height. And that's actually pretty low. Most sounding rockets would fly higher than that. But because this is the first rocket project SEDS-UAE has done, we're starting with like a lower height, and maybe in future years we'll go higher.
And where do you
Sorry, can you repeat the question?
Where will you guys launch them?
Okay, so we'll be launching in a competition in the USA in New Mexico. So they have a launch site there, and that's where we plan to launch for the competition. But we'll be doing some tests here as well. And we're looking into collaborations, possibly doing some test launches, maybe in the US, but also maybe in Turkey or Greece, because it's a bit closer to us. But we're still working on figuring that out.
About the safety protocols that you guys will follow,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a really good question. So one of the main safety things we follow is, in order to purchase rocket motors, you have to have a certain certification. So we're working right now with some collaborators to get that certification, even though we haven't done it yet. I would say the second thing is we have a schedule of different tests. So all of our equipment will be tested before we launch it, and that's really important. And then also within our rocket's design, we try to design everything to be as safe as possible. So for example, we use redundancy, having multiple of the same components, so that if one of them fails, we have a backup system in place.
Yeah. And can you guys recommend some of the safety protocols for any student group for starting the projects related to sounding rocket projects?
I would say maybe try to find an advisor or professor or someone who has some experience in the field, so that they can advise you on the specific safety of the equipment you're working with. yeah, because it really depends. Like rocket projects and satellite projects are so different. So yeah.
So if you guys have to add more about your projects, then you can like a more insight about your projects that you guys are currently working on, if there are more than.
Is there anything else you want to share about maybe the experience of working on the project, or
What was this question again?
just if there's anything else we want to share about the project?
I think one main part of the project is like communication. So we meet on every week, like once or twice, to share what we've been working on and then what kind of questions we have to improve our understanding of the rocket. And what else do we have?
There are a bunch of professors who work with CubeSats, and there are a few students who have done CubeSats, and I don't know the specifics about it, but I do know that a lot of my friends are pursuing that area.
Yeah, I can talk a little bit about that. So at our university, it's not a project that I'm working on, but there is a CubeSat project in progress. And the purpose of the mission is to detect terrestrial gamma ray flashes. So it has to do with when there's a lightning strike, there are gamma rays emitted into the atmosphere, and they're designing a detector to test that will go up in a CubeSat. So yeah, we do have professors here who work with satellites. And so if we're designing like our own CubeSat payload that goes into the rocket, that's something that we could talk to them about.
And some of my other friends for their senior design project are also trying to design a hoverboard. So they're building a hoverboard from scratch, and they're getting the propellers, they're getting everything, they're getting motors for it, and they're making the flight controller themselves, which is kind of cool. And yeah, they're working on it this semester. None of like, it's not something that we are doing, the four of us, but I do know that there's a lot of people who are interested in this field, and it's a very, yeah, everyone is in it, honestly. Like all the engineers kind of.
Yeah. And I guess maybe one more thing is like in the UAE in general, a lot of people have been very excited about the field of space research, which is great because last year the first astronaut from the UAE launched to the International Space Station. So there are a lot of events in Abu Dhabi and Dubai about like, you know, getting people interested in space, getting to meet the first astronaut and things like that. So, and then this summer also the Dubai Space Center is planning to launch a satellite project. So it's something that like there's a lot of research here for.
Okay, now getting back to the SEDS, and how did you guys join the SEDS-UAE?
So yeah, it's interesting. We're actually a fairly new organization. So the Aerospace Club at NYUAD has been active for about 2 years, but we joined SEDS last summer. And so I met some people who were part of SEDS in the US when I was doing an internship over the summer there. And we decided to collaborate, and then we decided to join SEDS. So all of us, just because we study, you know, different fields related to space and we were interested in it, we got together and decided it would be good to have more like international collaboration and connection. So that's why we decided to join SEDS.
Okay, and how do you guys collect funding to run the organization?
Yeah, so that's a good question. So as a student club at our university, we do receive some funding from the university directly. One of our rocket project also takes funding from our school's engineering design studio. So we have basically a big lab maker space where we have some funding that we can get for student projects also through the university. But we're also looking into external corporate sponsorships as well. But for now, most of our funding in the past has come from within the university.
Okay, and how difficult it was for you guys to register SEDS-UAE legally in UAE?
So for us, it was actually not too difficult because the key thing was like, as long as there's no transfer of money and things like that, we could form our own organization because it was the first time SEDS had come to the UAE. And because we're already a student club within our university, all we had to do was talk to the university and have them change the name from like Aerospace Club to like the SEDS chapter, SEDS-UAE. And from there it was fine.
And what are some of the annual activities that SEDS-NYUAD organizes?
Sorry, can you repeat the question?
What are some of the annual activities that SEDS-NYUAD organizes?
Oh, the annual activities.
Means some annual
yeah.
activities that your chapter has organized here.
So that's a good question. So because we've been part of SEDS for less than a year, we haven't really established a lot of annual activities. But I would say like something that we've done consistently has been to have different workshops. So every semester we reach out to a few people in the aerospace industry and we try to get them to come to our school. So we would definitely like to establish more annual activities, for example, something like a conference or meetup, something like that, but we haven't established that yet.
Okay. And now getting into Aayush and Sampanna. Guys, can you give a brief insight of your journey from Nepal to UAE and learning about space?
Do you want to start or should I?
Okay.
So first of all, when I started, so I'm a senior right now, which means that I applied to school exactly 4.5 years ago. And when I started in Nepal, there weren't any aerospace schools because I think Pulchok, the Institute of Engineering Pulchok campus recently started aerospace engineering. And that I think admits 48 students, but that was very recent. So when I started, I kind of wanted to do aerospace, but there wasn't any dedicated major for it in Nepal. And that's also one of the inspirations why I applied to NYU Abu Dhabi. So it was a really good school outside of Nepal, but it was very close from home. So that was a perfect match for me. So I applied here early, got in early, accepted. It's a very good school, a lot of facilities for engineering and aerospace as well. But the interest, because we also here, also we don't have as I said, we don't have one aerospace major. So people from mechanical, electrical, computer, they all merge around. Like Alison and I, she's electrical and mechanical. We're working on an aerospace project. There are different aspects that we look at. And it's been good so far. Alison and I went to Arizona last November for the SEDS conference there.
Yeah, we went to the Space Vision conference, if you remember. Yeah, so the two of us went to Arizona with one other member of our SEDS chapter.
Yeah, and so that's how I have, like, I mean, that's one of the few ways how I've contributed to aerospace, I'd say. I mean, it's not like I would want to do it more in the future, of course, but yeah, like that's how I've been shaping my trajectory here into aerospace.
Just describe your journey from Nepal to NYUAD.
For me, getting involved in aerospace was like a bit late because I didn't know about the rocket team and all this.
Even if it's not related to aerospace.
And then like my major is completely off, like current major is completely off, like aerospace track, it's mathematics. But still there are lots of application parts of mathematics that can be used in aerospace stuff. And there's always a curiosity of knowing more about the space. Like even my classes that I'm taking right now are related to universe and all this stuff. So that's the way in which I'm trying to be involved in space stuff. And for me, journey from Nepal to NYU Abu Dhabi has been great till now. It has helped me explore more about like what choices should I make for my future and all that stuff. So it's been great experience till now.
Yeah, and I wanted to add to that. When Alison first told me that we're having this conference, I was pretty surprised because in Nepal, back when we did it, there wasn't much of an aerospace thing going on. I don't know when you guys started, but I'm also really curious to hear back from you guys how this project was thought of, how you guys made sure it works. Because I know that like in Nepal, it's not the easiest to get people like-minded into aerospace because we already have like we don't have that many students into it, and everyone kind of goes into computer science or information technology. And yeah, I'm very curious to also learn from you guys how this project came into idea.
It was pretty difficult for us either to collect the space enthusiast and to start the national chapter as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, can you explain a little bit about that?
We started in 2017, and the idea was by the founder of SEDS-Nepal, Pradeep Shrestha, and he did collected some of the students from Kathmandu University, and they were Abhishek Kafle, Saurabh, and some others, and they formed a Kathmandu University chapter of SEDS-Nepal, and the guys and the guys united together, and they formed a national chapter as well, and the designation of and the portfolio of those guys were divided between an Abhishek being the president and Saurabh and Sulabh Shrestha being the vice president, and so on. So that's how we started, and there were some legal obligations as well. We suffered a lot from the registration part for registrating the SEDS-Nepal in our country. And I guess Prasanna, Sampanna, and Ayush know it more clearly about our country's legal procedures. Yes. And
yeah, I tried registering my NGO back in 2014-15. This was, I think, a couple of years before you guys went there. And like after the earthquake, it's been really hard to register anything because they think that as long as you show them that you're transferring money in and out for nice reasons, I mean, it's so hard to prove it that it's gotten very hard to register organizations. I do understand what you went through, and it's incredible that we've been this far. It's really amazing, and I didn't know that you guys were also from the same school that I graduated from. That's pretty nice. Like I didn't see any of you guys back there, but yeah.
And any suggestion for newbies from Nepal trying to get into space outside Nepal?
Okay, so one thing that I'm very proud about Nepal is that we spend a lot of our GDP on aerospace. I think it's 3%. And although we're a small country with very limited resources, that's a lot. So even in Nepal, I know that they're trying to build new airports and everything. I mean, that's not space per se, because Nepal doesn't have the resources to send people to space, and other countries have all of their regulations that only allow citizens from those countries to go into space, or it's very hard for other Nepalese to get into these projects. But I think it's a good start if we think about this from now in Nepal for the future. And if like these student-run initiatives, as well as people gathering from all colleges and thinking about the same idea, is definitely a push in the right direction. And I think that's definitely going to help in the next few years or decades, whatever. But it's great that we're keeping this spirit alive from early on, and I'm very proud of that.
And what about Ayush? Would you like to give any solution to the Nepalese students who are?
So I'm also a newbie, and I'm also trying to figure the same thing, like how to get involved. So it's good to hear suggestions from seniors who have more experience in this field.
Yeah, of course. And although we're seniors, of course, we're also very much in the learning process, and there's nothing so much huge or so much radically different that we have the right goals in our minds to do it. And I mean, it's definitely great because colleges are starting to realize the importance of aerospace in Nepal. They're introducing aerospace engineering, which is a step in the right direction. And it takes a lot of infrastructure, like I know jet engines or internships or tours around companies that specialize in aerospace is very hard to get in Nepal. And I know that they're collaborating with universities in China so that they exchange students in their first few years. That's what the Institute of Engineering is doing right now in Nepal. And these steps, of course, like these are some baby steps that we take, because once we send these kids to China and they learn about aerospace, then in the future, maybe we could develop more schools in Nepal that very much specialize in aerospace. But I think there is a very much positive outlook in aerospace in Nepal, and it's a very good time to get involved in aerospace for sure.
So I'd like to hear more about SEDS-Nepal, establishment of SEDS-Nepal. So can I?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, yeah. So SEDS-Nepal was informally established in around 2006 or 2003 by Pradeep Shrestha. So the one we were talking about, and then it was inactive for quite a long period of time. And then like Pradeep Dai came up with us, me, Abhishek Kafle, and Sulabh Shrestha, and some other students from Kashmir University, so that we can do more on space related activities in Nepal, and then we can like started again the SEDS-Nepal chapter. So till now we have not registered it yet, but then we are planning to register it as a company or a non-profit organization company from Nepal. So and we are in the process of establishing other chapters in different universities and then in colleges from different part of the country. Yeah, that's more like SEDS-Nepal right now in Nepal.
That's great. That's great. Because I know that there is a lot of process, like you need to go through the police certificate, whatnot for every member. I tried doing that. Like, of course, my organization was different when we started. But yeah, as I said, I really understand that it's very hard to open some initiative like this in Nepal, and it's really great what you guys have done.
Yeah, it's a bit difficult, but we can do it. We can do it. Also, let me introduce Mohan Tamang. So he's currently working in rocketry project in Nepal. So maybe he has some questions related to rocketry. Mohan?
Hello everyone.
Hi.
So I had also applied for Spaceport America Corp for 10K course student built rocket motor, but we were not selected. And I think the reason was we were not we didn't have access for commercial rocket motor.
Mhm.
Uh, So, what are the challenges or problems that you are facing with your first rocket project?
What are some of the challenges we're facing with the first rocket project? I would say one of the challenges is kind of getting all of the knowledge that's required to build a rocket into one place, because there are so many different systems that interact, and because none of our students or even like the professors are that experienced, we've had to do a lot of reaching out to, for example, the competition organizers and different organizations in the US to give us some advice about how we can go about these things. For example, for us, it's also very difficult to get rocket motors here in the UAE. So one of our plans is to do a test launch in the US in the weeks before the competition, because we can get the rocket motors sent to there. So we don't have the same problem of trying to get the rocket motors in the UAE, but we can assemble the rocket and test everything else from our university here.
So I have another question.
Yeah, sure.
What suggestion would you like to give us for beginners
For beginners, I
regarding?
feel like in many ways we're beginners ourselves, but I would say take advantage of all of the online resources and community, especially the community offered by SEDS, because there are a lot of teams that have done the Spaceport America Cup before within SEDS. So one of the first things that I did was I talked to some of the chapters in the US that are very experienced, and they've done it many times before. And they were able to give me some advice about how to go about the application and stuff like that. So I would recommend reaching out to some of them.
We don't have core knowledge regarding aerospace and rocket thing, and despite being rejected from Spaceport America, we are currently building our first model rocket, that is
Okay,
sugar rocket.
okay,
We have estimated apogee of 1 kilometer, and we
okay.
are having so many failures.
Mm-hmm.
So do you have any suggestions for good motor design?
For good motor design.
I mean, depends
Yeah,
on
and
Yeah, it depends on what kind of failures you're facing sometimes.
oh yeah, no, you're adding something to it. I interrupted you, I think.
I beg your pardon.
No, okay. So the thing, I mean, of course, it depends on what kind of issues that you guys are facing. And I mean, I really can't say without like looking at the device itself. And even if I look at the device, I really can't know if I really know the solution to it. But I think, yeah, just and getting back to your question of core knowledge in mechanical or aerospace, I mean, it's sometimes yeah, things are, I mean, yeah, it's kind of sad, like it's hard if one doesn't have knowledge in that area. But now that this world is so much into the online generation, I think it's very easy to get resources from online campuses. There are many portals that you can check, there are many classes from other universities that you can take, and it's very much easy to access knowledge. And of course, the getting books or anything else or YouTube videos, whatever helps. And I don't know which motor you guys are like using for your rocket, but if you probably dig into the user manual, think what's going on and see under the surface, just give it some time. Don't get stressed or anything about it. I know rejections and everything can be hard, but that's another step for like that's one step for going towards success. And of course, like that's just part of everything. Like there is not always going to be the right answer. And I mean, yeah, just try your best to see what fits in and how it's going to work. Alison probably knows more.
No, it's, I think that's really good advice. And it's also our first time as well. So we've been facing a lot of challenges along the way as well. And we're still in the process of like ordering components and assembling things. So we haven't even gotten to the stage of testing yet. So we don't even know yet what challenges we might face with that. But I would second Sampanna's suggestion. One of the things that we did was we read a lot of online tutorials and YouTube videos and watched like people building different model rockets, even starting from a very small rocket, like a very small model rocket, and then progressing to larger models, I think can be a good way to go, because you can start simple and understand the underlying system, and then you can move to more advanced ones later on.
Yeah, one problem, for example, like else really it's something different, but I think you can draw analogies. So if I were learning about web development, I wouldn't go and look at the hardest code in it. I would always start from hello world, and then I would progress. So when you're designing a motor, maybe start from circuits or whatnot, if you guys feel that you're lacking the core knowledge, and give yourself enough time. See, time is very important, and time is of the essence, and I don't know how much time constraints you guys have, but probably working around the clock, like learning more about it and just keeping your mind in it, like take breaks, whatever, I don't know, like whatever works, honestly, and whatever your team dynamics is, just figure out, like reading the manual really helps. For me, it does. Like, yeah, so yeah, don't tear the manuals apart. Like keep those manuals, that's very important. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, did that answer?
I have one more question.
Okay, sure.
Yeah, so currently in Nepal, like if we look into the situation, there are like a few groups or a few companies working in rocketry project. So one of the biggest problem they are facing is the chemical they need to import. So how would you suggest them to like import the chemicals, or then the rules and regulations? So while importing the chemicals.
So I'm sorry, I'm
No, go ahead.
So I did work for a year in the Department of Food Technology and Quality Control in Nepal. So I worked with chemicals a lot. So I do know that it's a hard process. And we tried importing a lot of chemicals there, and it took months for the customer to clear it. I don't know what kind of chemicals you guys are ordering. Of course, we here as well, it takes a lot of time for us, even in the UAE, to get parts that we need. Like last year, we were building a car, and to build all its components, even starting from the wheels and everything, we were just shipping it from the US, and even that took a lot of time to clear customs. So yeah, that thing is, I mean, it's always important to give enough time for that. And it's something that's not quite in our hands, because it depends on someone else if they're gonna let you use it or not. I mean, your best bet would be to order it as soon as possible and then hope for the best and it works out, and then you'll get it on time. So ordering it early is important in this case.
So the chemical I was talking about, the like those chemicals used in rocketry, like they are quite explosive, and then like it's really hard to convince the government right now in this situation. So to import those chemicals, right? So like, do you guys face similar problem in UAE, or like?
Yeah, so we have faced some similar problems in the UAE, and so far the way that we're getting around that is we're ordering all the components here that we can order and assembling everything and testing everything. But when we go for the competition in the US, we'll have some things delivered there where the regulations are not as strict, and there's more of like a community for amateur rocketry, right? So there are these people that regularly order these things and they know how to assemble them. So we're probably going to build our whole rocket here, but then we'll do the motor and the propellants and the test launches and everything. We'll do it there in the weeks like immediately before the competition.
Okay.
What
So
chemicals are these exactly? Have you guys tried searching in the Nepali market? I know there are many Nepali markets that sell chemicals, but maybe they're there. Have you guys checked around?
Like we can find some chemicals here in Nepal too, but then like the chemicals which we can't find here in Nepal. Like I was talking about chemical that we can find here in Nepal, and then those are like hard to import since they are explosive, right?
Yeah.
No, it is difficult for sure, and I don't think that we have a complete answer to that question either. Yeah, because we're also facing similar problems here.
Okay, so like, would you like to elaborate more about the competition? The rocketry
What
competition.
else about the competition project do you want to know?
I mean, the competition you were talking about, the rocketry competition, right?
Yeah. So we
So
explained about, yeah.
like
So
how groups here in Nepal, those who are working in rocketry group, can participate as well, like.
in things like Spaceport America?
Yeah.
Yeah, so for us, like, it's also our first time trying to do it, so we don't have a whole lot of like specific advice we can give to your team. But what we can say is like what's worked for us is to do a lot of background research and ordering all of the components that we can order. We're also looking into some international collaborations and things like that. So things that are difficult to test in the country, we look and see, can we go somewhere else and do that, which is not always feasible, you know. But we're trying to do as much research as we can and like kind of find different solutions and ways to get around different aspects of the problem. But we're still waiting to see if we'll be able to finish everything successfully. But when we do, we'll let you know how it goes. Yeah.
Okay, so can you explain more about the project you are planning to do in future?
Oh, like payload and stuff. So currently our idea for the payload is we're going to be measuring ozone concentration so here in the Middle East, there's a problem with ozone pollution because of the petroleum industry. And so we're designing a device that will measure ozone concentration in the lower troposphere. And so we're going to put all of the instrumentation into a CubeSat form factor and stick that in the rocket, and then we'll send it to the 3-kilometer height.
Oh, okay. So how many competitions you have participated so far? Like, can you just
So this is our first rocket competition. So our rocketry group is very new as well.
So besides rockets, like, are you guys working in so are you guys planning to work in few more other projects?
Yeah, there are some things we're looking at in the future. So one of them was, in the past, we've entered a CubeSat competition. And that ended up being the start of the project that the professors at NYU Abu Dhabi are currently working on. So that was a few years back before our SEDS chapter got started. But in the future, we're looking into maybe doing more competitions related to satellites or more, if this rocket competition goes well, we hope to enter again in the future. So we're kind of just getting started, but if this one goes well, we'll definitely enter more competitions later on.
Okay. So like, as you know, like SEDS-Nepal is also like right now, so has not done any activities like that can incite everyone. So how would you suggest, like, what kind of project would you suggest for us to start with?
Maybe something you could start with is, I mean, Sampanna or Aayush, you can jump in if you have better advice, but like drones or UAVs or something like that, because they don't require nearly as much like movement, like those kinds of things.
Or even CubeSats, for
yeah,
example.
CubeSats work well.
Yeah, CubeSat is a good way of starting any I guess. Like, that's my personal opinion. I don't know. And I mean, it works and it's very effective in what it does.
Okay.
Yeah, I think also like a thing that our group has done as well is just like getting students interested in space. So like, even if right now we can't do a lot of large scale projects, we can bring people in the industry who've worked in different positions to kind of share their knowledge, get students excited, have like small workshops or small talks, things like that, instead of doing like large scale competition projects right from the start.
You can just venture into Awesome or Indrachuk, and they're really nice shops. Like, they're pretty cheap as well, and you can get some components. And as Alison said, you can build it.
Sorry, I can't hear you. Sorry.
Oh yeah,
sorry.
So you can go into Awesome or Indrachuk, and they have all these small shops. Like, there's a road. I don't know what it's called, but there's a lot.
It's called Bangamura. It's called
You guys
Bangamura.
should definitely check that place out, because when I was there, that place was heaven for me. I really liked it, and it's so cheap. Like, you guys should really check it out. It's like
like it's a kind of haven for us, like engineering students, like haven.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. So even so yeah, we were also so I used to I worked with the motor not for any aerospace thing, but I was building a greenhouse with it. So I do know like
Mhm.
what goes into a motor, and I worked with a lot of motors, but I do know for a fact that there are different types of motors there. There are different types of circuitry that can basically you can actually make a drone out of everything that you can find in Nepal,
Mhm.
and I have many friends who've done it. Like that's the best way of starting it, I guess. And I don't know what your budget constraints are or what everything else is like, but then you can take steps forward and build like bigger stuffs after that.
So,
And you guys are already working on the rocket thing, so that's
so
cool.
talking about the budget, like how would you suggest like to gather or like to raise the fund for SEDS Nepal, like to start projects? So your suggestions regarding the fundraising?
So, of course, I think the best way would be to open a student interest group in a lot of campuses in Nepal because we don't have many. And there, one advantage that we have in Nepal is that, I mean, advantage or disadvantage, however you put it, is a lot of things are centered around Kathmandu. And there are a
Okay.
bunch of schools around Kathmandu that kind of specialize in this area. So you can form student interest groups that could just meet in a common space and you guys can collect donations or I mean, donations are, I think, the best way and most effective way of fundraising in Nepal, even now. If you guys can find investors, that's brilliant. If you guys can find outside sources and if everything in the organization permits you guys to get funding from international countries, that's great. But I really don't know how your guys, like the specific constraints you guys have regarding budget and
It's
also
it's really hard to get budget here in Nepal because like the space kind of thing is like quite new here in Nepal and it's really hard for us to convince them.
so how so how have you guys collected the budget so far to run the
So
organization?
like for now, like we have done it through our personal budgets, like from our personal salary or our personal money.
That's,
But
that's
then like
great.
it's not going to be far, so it's not going to go that far with our personal budgets, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I think student interest groups are the best way to go in these colleges because I think you guys are spread around different campuses. So you guys can start
Mhm.
from where you are, find people who are interested in it, get more people interested about it, of course, and then like I don't know, like the simplest of ways, like membership forms and I'm not the best guy when it comes to business models or starting fundraising or anything, but if I were you, I would start from there for sure.
Okay, so like I'd like to add one more, like your business perspective regarding the entrepreneurship in space in Nepal. So, like, do you think it's like really possible, like, to the entrepreneurship here in Nepal, like in the context like when everyone is not aware of the space, and then like no one is sharing their interest in space
Yeah,
here in Nepal right now.
it's definitely possible, and it's obviously going to take a while to change people's mindsets or whatever they have regarding aerospace. But I do know from my stay in Nepal, because I've been there, like I stayed there for 18 years, so I know the context of the country very well. If you can get people into it, I know many people who are interested in engineering and especially aerospace. And it's
Hmm.
just that these people are spread out and there's nothing that unifies them yet. Like this is a very good initiative to find these people and start organization and collectively work towards this. But I think proper brainstorming and like I do know that there is that aerospace something aviation, civil aviation,
Oh
whatever
yeah, it's
authority.
CAM, Civil Aviation Authority of Nepal.
Yeah, or you guys can probably go ask for some support from the engineers organization. I don't know how that works or how they're running it. And I do know that there's a lot of dedicated projects for civil or anything else, and it's very hard to get it into aerospace. But I mean, anything like you can put this on the table and you guys can be the leaders in changing this around, you know, like why not aerospace? Why is there so much civil engineering or computer science or
Mhm.
whatever that's populating Nepal right now? Why not aerospace? Just I think you guys have a great start, and if you guys keep working with that motto, things are definitely gonna get successful. Just don't and keep moving forward.
Yeah, I hope so.
Now, there is like aerospace course in campus, you can always collab with them because they have all the resources that's needed.
Yeah. And I do know that Tribhuvan University was very, I wouldn't say aggressively, but they were looking for faculties in aerospace, and it's a good thing if you guys, I don't know if you guys have a mentor, like a research academic mentor, but it's good to approach people in the campus that has aerospace right now, IOE Pulchuk, and you can ask for these people and their support. And they're also aerospace engineers from Nepal, so they probably have a better understanding of this subject. And of course, like send them an email, hit them up. You guys are in St. Xavier's, Pulchuk is like 1 kilometer away from your campus. So like what I'm saying is just put this proximity that you have with other dedicated, interested people to your advantage and build a collaborative community like you guys have already started, and just keep building on it, and things are gonna get successful for sure. I'm optimistic.
Okay. So maybe, okay. Yeah, Nishal, please.
Can you tell us more about the projects that you guys have competed and participated personally?
So does it have to be aerospace
Are
or
there any
anything?
projects that you guys have competed personally? Yeah, space related projects or any projects related to your career?
I see.
Okay. So over the summer, I did an internship in the US where I'm from with the National Center for Atmospheric Research. And so during that internship, I was able to work on a CubeSat computer system, which was a really good experience. And so basically, I was working with a lot of physicists who were researching in the field of solar physics. And there was a small group of engineers that was there to build different instruments for them. So like telescopes and satellites and this kind of thing. So that was a good experience for me that I learned a lot from. But again, because our SEDS chapter is so new, I think we've already explained to you most of the projects that we've done so far.
Personally, I was involved in this summer research at New York, in New York University in New York, under their mechanical and aerospace engineering department. Wasn't anything about controls or propulsion or anything, but I was working with 3D printing, and I was using Fortran to create a 3D printing model from scratch. So I would build a laser, I would build the dynamics of how the parts are structured. So this was something on additive manufacturing that many companies like Airbus or Boeing are very much invested in the future. And yeah, that's what I did over the summer. Like that was last summer. That's also my involvement in aerospace. And as I said, like as we said, Alison and I are working on our drone project.
Yeah.
So the swarm robotics project that we already talked about.
Yeah.
I guess that's, I mean, you guys are.
Yeah, they're just starting. But
Yeah.
do you have anything you want to share? If not, it's okay.
Yeah, it can be personal project as well. Like
It can be any related to the space or your career related projects. If you guys want to share
Not
or have
really.
anyone.
When I was in high school, like our senior project was to you had to find an intern that's like where your majors like related. So I work in a observatory, like managing telescopes, and then we had a similar problem with getting funding. But then what we figured out was so we got a student really interested in aerospace, and then her parents could support like fund the observatory. That's how we got like everything repaired, and then like maybe that can be a way to go.
And of course, we have like class projects. It's kind of, I know the system in Nepal where we have to sit for an exam, but it's very much different here. And for some class projects, for example, like last semester, Alison and I went around the city. We took images of all traffic signs that we could find, and we created a classification neural network system that could classify traffic signs with what accuracy did we get?
I think it was, well, the training and test was different.
Yeah, I think
It was around 93.
Yeah, 93% accuracy with around 1,000 images that we collected from the UAE, and I think that was the first in our, like the project that we did was a first.
Yeah, that was for our machine learning class. That we took to.
I don't know, like it really depends. Like one project that we did was that we built a hybrid car and we raced it in a lane, which is like near the border of Saudi Arabia. There's a good racetrack over there. So it was hybrid, meaning that it could also take electricity and petrol. So you could use both, and it was an endurance race, and that was pretty cool. And yeah, of course, like there's so many research opportunities. Like, yeah, we could just keep on talking about it all day. But yeah, if you guys are interested, or if we, I mean, I think this is a good place for future discussion. And yeah, very
for
much
sure.
happy for
Definitely.
yeah.
So I think we're at an end then.
Yeah.
So your final notes or your final remarks
So-
to all the audience, or those who are watching this?
And adding more, if you guys have any questions, and
I have a few questions. Like you guys said, you started in 2017, right? And how many people do you guys have so far in SEDS-Nepal that are interested in fundraising?
So actually, like it started back in 2006 or 2003 by Pradeep Shrestha, but then it was like quite inactive for a long period of time. So currently, we are planning to expand around 4 chapters in 4 different universities and then college. So, and talking about the people, those are involved right now. So it's around 40 people right now. So like after we are planning to open chapter at different universities. Like after we open the chapter, I think we'll get more audience and then more participants.
That's really nice. That's good. And yeah, I mean, I was as I said, like Alison told me about it, I was very much curious about it, and she sent me your website, and I looked through it, and it was good, yeah. And I'm very glad that we're having this conversation, because even I'm a Nepali who's really interested into aerospace, and learning about you guys and how you guys are doing it really makes me proud, kind of. Yeah, right, Ayush? I mean, it's Nepal. Yeah, yeah. I mean, if you guys have any questions, I think we should discuss further later on.
Yeah. I guess concluding remarks from me, thank you so much for taking the time, and I'm really glad that we were able to meet with you guys. I think SEDS-UAE is similar to you in a lot of ways, that we're just starting out very new, trying to reach out to other universities, trying to figure out the basics of some of these projects. But I really hope that the different SEDS chapters kind of in this region can collaborate more. Because hopefully if we share resources and the things that we're working on, I think that it will really help to like strengthen the aerospace efforts in this region. So
okay. And what about one thing? You give. What about your opinion? Yeah.
whatever you want to
My
share.
opinion. So I'm from China. I don't really know the situation in Nepal, but then whatever you guys are working on, just keep on working, I guess.
Yeah. It's
I have
okay.
one question for Nepalese brothers.
Yeah.
So, how do you intend to pursue your career in commercial space, and what prospect do you see in commercial space in Nepal?
Commercial space.
So
Yeah,
like
how do you intend to pursue your career in commercial space?
That's a very interesting question, because commercial space is not like, it's not something that I've been thinking about, but regarding aerospace in general and how I want to pursue it, I think that undergraduate knowledge is not very much. I mean, it's great, and I mean it's a good foundation to start with. But I think I would want to pursue in-depth knowledge about it, whether it's through graduate school or through research experience, and then I want to have a final answer of how I want to contribute to it. I really don't know at this point how that's going to end up, but yeah, just hoping that Nepal really is interested in aerospace, and they're trying a lot with everything that, like, they're building new airports, whatnot, and it's not space, but I mean, I think it's a good start, and I'm very looking forward to how that evolves over the next few years, and really don't have a specific answer to that. Yeah, really sorry about that.
So I guess we are at the end of the talk. And so if you guys have personal opinion, how was the space talk, and how did you guys feel participating and being connected with us? So starting
Yeah, I
with
think,
Sampanna.
okay.
So yeah.
What was the space talk?
Just like, how was the experience of participating in the space talk? How did, like, feedback for them, basically. How did you feel about it?
I mean, I mean, I'm just very happy that like
There's a space thing going in Nepal. I was unaware about. He was unaware about that he was there.
yeah, I didn't know
because we
that
didn't know
like
these things were there.
yeah, I didn't know that you guys were around since 2003, and you guys like from what you guys say and from what I gather, it seems like you guys have been very actively involved since like the past 2-3 years, and that's really good. What else? Like this was obviously, I think you guys found it as informative as I did from you guys. I mean, I learned about this organization and everything, and
Yeah, I think that's good.
yeah.
Yeah, no, it was a great experience. Again, thank you. Yeah.
And thank you so much to everyone for participating with us. And I hope we'll be doing it more in coming days.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely reach out to us if you have anything you want to ask or collaborate with. Just let us know. Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
Thanks for
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, thank you guys. Thank you so much.
Bye.